The rain had already been falling for hours, drenching the small cemetery in a cold, gray silence, when Daniel Walker realized he wasn't just attending another goodbye, he was standing at the edge of the last thing he thought he could lose. His worn suit clung to him, his shoes sinking slightly into the soft earth, and as he stared at the casket lowering into the ground, he felt a hollow ache that seemed to echo through every part of him. He'd buried loved ones before, but this time, he felt as though he were burying the last remnants of the life he had once dreamed of. And just when he believed the day couldn't get any heavier, fate quietly placed someone in his path, someone who would change everything in ways he never imagined. That if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the strange ways life brings people together, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Daniel hadn't planned to stay long. He had work later, bills waiting at home, and a little girl, 6-year-old Emily Walker, who depended on him for everything. He was a single father doing his best, living paycheck to paycheck, patching life together with hope and exhaustion. Yet, when he turned to leave the service, he noticed a young pregnant woman standing alone beside an older man's photograph, her hands trembling as she clutched her belly. Her coat was thin, soaked through, and the grief on her face was so raw and exposed that Daniel felt it pierce straight through him. He approached gently, intending only to offer a tissue or a small word of comfort, but as she tried to thank him, her knees buckled. Instinctively, Daniel caught her before she could fall, steadying her as panic flashed in her eyes. She whispered that she hadn't eaten since yesterday, that the funeral was her grandfather's and he had been the last family she had left. Everything about her, the loneliness, the fear, the quiet desperation, reminded Daniel of all the nights he had gone without so Emily could eat, of all the times he had stood on the edge and had no one to lean on. So he helped her. He found a bench under a tree, sheltered her from the rain, and shared the only food he carried in his old backpack, a granola bar he secretly saved for Emily in case money ran short again this week. He stayed with the woman, Olivia Bennett, until she felt steady enough to walk. He offered her his coat. He offered her a ride. He offered her a kindness that cost him nothing but meant everything. And when she cried softly, he simply stayed, letting her grief spill without interrupting it. He told her she wasn't alone anymore, not today. Hours later, after driving her to the small apartment she rented, Daniel went home feeling drained but strangely lighter, as though doing one good thing had somehow loosened the tightness in his chest. He didn't tell Emily much, just that he had helped someone who needed it. Emily smiled the way children do, believing goodness always finds its way back. Daniel wished life worked like that, but the next morning, just after sunrise, a knock echoed through his quiet apartment. Daniel opened the door to find 2 attorneys standing there, solemn yet warm, asking to speak to him privately. Confused, he invited them in, offering them mismatched chairs and apologizing for the clutter of toys and overdue notices on the table. The men placed a sealed envelope before him and explained that they represented Edward Bennett, a philanthropist and business magnate who had passed away 2 weeks earlier. Daniel listened, bewildered, until they said that Olivia had told them about the man who stayed with her, the man who offered kindness without knowing who she was or what her grandfather had left behind. Edward Bennett had spent his final years searching for good souls, as his will called them, people who acted out of genuine kindness without expecting anything in return. He had left a clause, a final wish, that a significant portion of his estate be given to a stranger whose heart proved selfless in an unplanned moment. Olivia had insisted her grandfather would have chosen Daniel himself. The attorney read the number aloud, and Daniel felt the world tilt beneath him. $500 million. An inheritance larger than anything he could comprehend. More money than he could ever dream of. Enough to give Emily a future brighter than anything he could afford. Enough to change everything. For a long time, he couldn't speak. He didn't dare breathe. He felt as though he were floating above the room, watching his life transform in an instant. The weight he'd carried for years, the fear of rent, the dread of emergencies, the exhaustion of doing everything alone, began to crumble, replaced by a tremor of disbelief, relief, and overwhelming gratitude. But the story did not end with sudden wealth. Instead, it unfolded slowly, gently, in the beautiful, imperfect way that life changes when hope returns. Daniel didn't quit his job immediately. He didn't buy a mansion. He took Emily to the park that afternoon, pushed her on the swing, and told her that their life was going to get easier. He donated to shelters, paid off the debts of families drowning under hospital bills, rebuilt community centers, and funded scholarships in the Bennett family name. And every time he helped someone, he thought of Olivia standing alone in the rain, and of the moment he decided to offer kindness even when his own life was breaking. Months passed, and Daniel and Olivia remained close. He supported her through the rest of her pregnancy, and when she gave birth to a baby boy, she asked Daniel and Emily to be part of his life. It was as though the universe had woven their stories together from the beginning, intertwining grief, generosity, and unexpected family. Daniel realized that the true inheritance he received wasn't measured in money, it was measured in the way his life expanded to include people he never expected, love he never saw coming, and healing he never thought possible. And somewhere deep inside, he knew that Edward Bennett had seen something he himself often overlooked, that people like Daniel, people who give when they have little, carry a light that money can amplify but never create. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us tell more stories that remind the world of the power of kindness. Before the ending, please comment below and tell us what part of the story moved you the most, or if you've ever experienced a moment when a simple act of kindness changed everything. In the end, as Daniel stood on his modest balcony watching the sun rise over a life he never thought he'd have, he whispered a quiet thank you, to the grandfather he never knew, to Olivia for trusting him, to Emily for believing in goodness, and to the strange, beautiful timing of fate. And as the light spread across the sky, Daniel realized something profound. Sometimes, the smallest kindnesses create the biggest miracles.